Today we're going to talk about Rabotai. Today's Tisha B'Av, so not much we can learn today. We're going to learn an interesting topic that is allowed to be learned. Suicide.
Wow.
Suicide in the army. In the army. If somebody is in the army in Israel, there is a law called the Hannibal Law. Anybody knows?
Yeah.
The Hannibal Law means, they even named it that way. There was a law, it was drafted in 1986. Okay, almost 40 years ago. That by law, that if a person is abducted, what is he allowed to do? Other soldiers are allowed to shoot randomly. They're allowed to shoot and kill the abductors, obviously the enemy, and the soldier, Jewish soldier. What was the reason for that? So they didn't want any negotiations with the Goyim, like we have right now. They don't want to have any negotiations with the enemy, so they made this rule. Okay, so in 2017 it was revamped. They redid it again. They called it the Iska Shachor, black operation. They renamed it. They redid it, but basically the idea is the same. So the question is, can you do that? If a person in the army, you're in the army, and one of the person's friends is captured, and they're using him as a shield. They say, you shoot us, you're gonna kill him. So should we just shoot randomly and kill the enemy and the soldier, or you're not allowed to do that? Is it considered murder? That's question number one. Question number two is, we probably discussed in the past, is if a person is abducted himself and he has a weapon of sorts, or he can just take the weapon of the enemy, can he kill himself and commit suicide and say, why should I be a pawn, a political pawn, and they should be sitting there and bargaining me and trading thousands of people for me, like they had a deal like that, Gilad Shalit. For him, they released 1,000 prisoners and 27-something women. Most of amongst them was Sinwar, the one that did October 7, and many others. Yeah. So, is that worth it? One guy for 1,000 terrorists, and how many people died because of the release of these people? So that's the question number two: is can a guy say, listen, I know what it's like. I'm going to kill myself. So that's question number two. And question number three is interesting. Recently we had a war with Iran. So imagine a pilot comes to you and asks you a question, and he says they didn't know what kind of defense systems they had in Iran, in different parts of the country. He says, imagine my plane is hit and the wing is shut down. That's it. They shut down part of the plane. The plane cannot fly. So he has two options. He can either press eject and land in enemy territory and will be tortured, or say Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, and just go down with the plane. Which one should you do? So that's the questions we're going to discuss today. So let's begin. To begin, we have to explain how bad is it to become a prisoner. To become a prisoner, there's a midrash that says there are 7 things that are, let's just say 6 things that are better than being captured, better than death, which means a person should rather choose death than these things should happen to them. What is it? A person should say that I'd rather die than see my children go off the derech. Right? It's for some people, that's what it is. It says, which means when a child goes off the derech, he gives such feelings to his parents that the parents would rather die. The second one is a person who loses kids in his lifetime. If you ask parents that lost their children in their lifetime, they would say, I'd rather die. I'd rather die myself. It's such a terrible feeling to bury your own children. The third one is it's better to be tortured. You better die than be tortured. Right? The guy who's being tortured says, I'd rather die. Stop torturing me. Just kill me already. That's one. The fourth thing is you rather die than fall into human hands, to fall into captivity. A person would rather die than shame somebody else in public, as we say, and rather die than to commit adultery. So you see, to be falling in people's hands and to be tortured is worse than death. What?
Why not do Avodah Zarah? It's not one of them.
Avodah Zarah is also, but you're saying, so maybe there's not much pain involved. We're talking about here excruciating mental or physical pain. Torture, right? So you see clearly that a person rather should die. So is that a reason, is that a heter for us to tell the soldier, yeah, kill yourself rather than be tortured? Kill yourself rather than be tortured. Is that allowed? Or do you think this is a good proof? What do you think?
Same question to you about what Kevorkian did. Is that allowed too?
Who?
Kevorkian.
I don't know what that is. Okay.
Kevorkian.
I hear.
Assistive suicide.
Right. No. Oh, So assisted suicide. We'll talk about that as well. So that's basically what it is. The Gemara tells us that if Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah would have been tortured, those three people that actually were thrown in the where?
Fine.
In the fire. They said, kill us, and we're not going to bow down to the idol. But let's say they would be tortured. Would they bow to the idol? The Gemara says they would. They would, which means nobody can withstand torture. Torture is very, very crucial. It's a very serious thing. So all these midrashim are indicating that maybe a person is allowed to do it. We'll see if you're allowed to paskin like a midrash. So there's another thing that says that midrash says it's better to be thrown to die than to be thrown in the hands of a human. We have a midrash that says about Tzidkiyahu. As anybody knows, with Tzidkiyahu, also connected to Tisha B'Av, but when Nebuchadnezzar sent his main general Nebuzaradan to go and destroy Jerusalem. So what happened was there was a king, a vassal king. His name was Tzidkiyahu. So he made himself a tunnel, and he said, "If I'm going to rebel, and if they come attack me, I have a tunnel going underneath and leave the city, and I'm going to come out right by a place called Maleh Adumim." So what happened was, Kadosh Baruch Hu said that's not going to happen. He says he's not going to leave that easy. So he made a deer run towards the opening of the tunnel, which means the soldiers were trying to chase this deer to eat it. And they were running and running and running, and it stopped right by the opening of the tunnel, and they caught him. And at that time, this king is coming out with his kids and family. So they caught him. And they're about to kill him for rebelling against Nebuchadnezzar. So what did he do? So they brought him to Nebuchadnezzar. Nebuchadnezzar said, not so fast. Not so fast. He says, before that, let's kill his 10 kids in front of him. So they killed his kids, 10 kids in front of him, one by one. And then he said, take something hot and poke out his eyes. So he says that should be the last thing he ever saw in his life. And leave him alive. That's what the punishment was. And the Midrash says that it would have been better for this Tzidkiyahu to bang his head and not watch it. Right. Does that mean that he should have committed suicide and not see this? No, it probably means exaggeration. It means it's that painful. That's what it means. It's very, very painful. So what do we see, Rabotai? Is this a heter to commit suicide? What do you guys think?
Well, what about Shaul?
Huh? So we're going to learn from Shaul HaMelech. So the case is a very good point. So Shaul HaMelech, everybody knows the story in the book of Tanakh. He committed suicide. Everybody knows that? Right. First of all, he asked one of his sword bearers, says, please kill me. I don't want to be caught by this Philistine. And he said, no, I'm going to kill the king. I have no right to kill a king. So he says, no problem. I'm going to come and kill myself. So he took his sword, took it upside down, and threw himself on top of the sword. And that's called suicide. So what did Shaul HaMelech do? Was what he did, was it proper? You said yes? Huh?
For a king.
For a king?
He would have been disgraced for the king.
Yeah, for the king, he would have been disgraced.
So 1 second. So the question is, the Arishonim that learned that what he did was not proper thing to do.
Yeah.
He was not supposed to do it. He made it up. He had no idea. Maybe it was a time of lachatz. He couldn't. What he did is not an example for everyone, which means what he did was not a proper thing to do. So how do you explain that? No. So you're not allowed to kill yourself. The Gemara said we see that a person who kills himself is a very, very serious thing. What's the halacha if somebody kills himself? Which means, huh? You're not allowed to mourn him. You're not allowed to. There's no mourning for him. The family there has no mourning, right? We'll see the halacha. We learned this in the past, if you remember. Shulchan Aruch says as follows: that somebody who kills himself knowingly. That's the key line here. You have to do it knowingly.
What does it mean knowingly?
Knowingly means he has to do it with a clear mind. That's what the Mefarshim explain. He has to do it knowingly. And mitaskim l'chol davar. You don't treat him with any mourning practices, which means you tell the family there's no mourning for this person. You don't give him a eulogy. You don't rip clothing for him. Nothing. But you give respect to the family. The respect to the family, which means you come and you line up and you give them tanchumim. From here, so the Mefarshim learn out from here that if it's a disrespect for the family, if the family gets so disrespected that, oh wow, it's so embarrassing, this kid committed suicide, lo leinu, right? So we say we tell the family mourn, so they shouldn't lose because it's very, very disrespectful. They're going to lose a lot of shame.
It happened a year ago with a girl, killed her kids and herself.
Right. So, and that's what it is. So the Gemara says, Shulchan Aruch brings it down. So you have to have 3 criteria what's considered suicide. Number 1, you have to actually see he said, I'm going to go commit suicide, which means he has to actually verbalize it. He has to verbalize, says, I'm about to do A. Then people actually see him actually go do the act. And he has to be clear-minded. He has to do it in a clear head. Like Shaul HaMelech.
Suicide note.
So what? So that's a discussion. The suicide note counts. So the poskim find all different leniencies to get out. Now, obviously, people with mental, issues, they're not all clear-minded. They did not do this.
Healthy person would commit suicide.
No healthy person will commit suicide unless he's in a pickle, like we're talking about. Right? So that's mamash really suicide because he's not mentally challenged and he doesn't have no issues. So obviously he is doing it with a clear mind. So Shaul HaMelech, what do you think about Shaul HaMelech?
Well, it depends on the Rishonim who say that he was not in his full head. That means you could say that he was not saying.
No, they said that he was in his full head and he should not have done so. He had no right to do so.
Some Rishonim say otherwise.
Correct. Some Rishonim say otherwise. Some Midrashim say, and the actual Midrash says that when the Torah says Ach damechem nedrosh, with the pasuk in the Torah that says you're not allowed to commit suicide is Ach damechem nedrosh. I will make sure to seek out your blood. So the Gemara says Ach is coming to exclude something. That's the rule in the Torah. Ach is a general rule. Whenever you see this word Ach, it's excluding something, which means there's something that's outside this rule. Outside this rule. And what is that? The Midrash says, what is that? That's talking about Shaul HaMelech. Shaul HaMelech is an exclusion. He's an exclusion.
Why is he an exclusion?
So that's the question. Why is he an exclusion? What's so special about Shaul HaMelech? Let's see. There are maybe a few reasons to understand. So the first one is, as we said, the first explanation is that Shaul HaMelech did not act properly. He should not have done what he did. The Chachamim were not happy with what he did. Then, what about the story? Some say, listen, he knew he was going to die. He knew he was going to die, so he's allowed to do it.
Right.
Why? Because he went to a witch before, and the witch brought Shmuel Navi, and then she told him, and the Shmuel said to him, "You're going to be here with me tomorrow." Now, is that an answer? Huh?
Not allowed to rely on that.
Why not allowed to rely on that?
Some people say it's a hallucination, no? It's like, it's a dream.
So, okay, there is an opinion like that. There is an opinion of Chofni Gaon. There was one of the Geonim. The Radak brings one of the Geonim. It says, no, that's actually she all made it up. This was all an illusion. He thought it was real, but she actually all made it up. So the question is, how was he relying on? What was he relying on? Even if it was true, you have a lot of questions on this particular answer. Why? Why is it? How many questions do you have on this answer?
Well,
Many.
Well, let's hear.
one is, was it true?
What?
Dark magic.
What is it?
How do we know?
This whole story, was it true?
So okay, so that's one. So the main question is, so what? Just because you said, let's ask you the question. If
Is that a reason for him to be able to kill himself?
exactly, it's not a reason to kill himself. Which means, let's say a building falls on somebody, and there's a person that is under the rubble, and he has 1 hour to live. Do we violate Shabbat just so he can live an extra hour?
Yes.
Yes, right? That's the halacha. So how does he know that God is gonna kill him? Maybe he was supposed to go this way. Maybe God would save him a different way. Maybe ground will open up and he would have a tunnel. Angel will come and eagle will come and pick him up and take him elsewhere.
Can't rely on
How do you rely on that? How do you just? What's the conclusion? Oh, you're gonna be with me. God doesn't make miracles. God can make miracles. That's the question. And number two is every hour you live, it's a big thing. We violate even Shabbat. So how do you know? Oh, okay, I'm gonna die soon anyway. So I'm just gonna early in the morning. How do we? So it's very hard to understand how Shaul HaMelech deduced from the fact that the Shmuel told him you're gonna be here tomorrow. Oh, you know what? I'm allowed to kill myself.
Yeah,
That's not a logical deduction.
There was
In
also
what
being-
way did she acquire the information?
That's what he's saying. According to some, it's a machloket in the Rishonim. According to some, that she really was a Baal Ov. She did something called seance, which was something that's forbidden by the Torah. She used those means. According to others, this was all imagination. She just made it up. She knew he was Shaul from the beginning. She just fed information he wanted. So that was that. So you see clearly this answer is also not so, we can't deduce from this answer so much. Some others say no, it's because he was afraid he was going to suffer. So the question is, if a person is afraid he's going to suffer, is that a good answer to kill himself?
No.
Why not?
I mean, why not?
Torture him, no?
Tortured, yeah. Huh?
That was one of the things he should die for, no?
Really? No. The Gemara, the Midrash says that it's better, the feeling is bad, but doesn't mean that are you allowed to torture, are you allowed to kill yourself?
No.
Why? Why not?
Because we learn from all the Harugi Malchut.
Very good. So he's saying Harugi al Malchut. So Gemara Masechet Avodah Zarah talks about one of the Harugi Malchut. His name was Rabbi Hanania ben Radion. Remember we learned him?
Rabbi Kiva, all of them.
No, Rabbi Kiva was being killed, but he was killed. He didn't do anything about it. But Rabbi Hanania ben Radion was an interesting story.
Yeah.
Why? Because they wrapped him up in the Sefer Torah, but they also put wet sponges on his heart and other places, so that he should die in excruciating and slow pain. So they came to him and they said, Rabbi, why don't you just open your mouth and let the flame go inside your mouth, you'll die faster.
Yeah.
What did he answer?
Suicide.
He said, I cannot do that. He says, God gave me the neshama, let him take my soul. Let him take my soul. And then came the executioner, and the executioner said, if I will remove the sponges and make the fire bigger, so you should die quicker, will you promise me olam haba? He said, yes, I will. So he said, no problem, I'll do it. He took away the sponges, he raised the fire, and Rabbi Hanania ben Radion died, and he threw himself also in the fire. He killed himself also. And the voice comes out from heaven, the Gemara says that the voice comes out and says, Rabbi Hanania ben Radion and this executioner have olam haba. It's crazy, right? So the question, there's a lot of questions on the story. How is it different than Shaul?
Yeah.
How is it different than Shaul? No, what's the answer?
He didn't do it himself.
Very good. Why?
Technically, he did.
What?
Execution.
But how did he allow to do it?
Just told
He asked him, should I do it for you?
That's like
And he said yes.
assistive suicide.
In a sense. So what's the logical answer? Let's think about it a second. What's the logic? How is this different than Shaul HaMelech? How is it different than Shaul
Not
HaMelech?
by your own hand.
Because the Shalomayev wasn't promised Olam Haba.
No,
He's not dying anyway.
he was going to die anyway. Very good. So Moshe got it right. He says that Rabbi Hanania ben Radion knew he was going to die. It was just a matter of time. Well, Shaul, who said he was going to die? Where do you see 100% he's going to die? The fact that he was told by Shmuel that you're going to be here tomorrow, that's not a good indication of that. So therefore, that's not such a good example, right? So it's not a good example. So what was the reason? There's another fourth explanation is because he was afraid they're going to make him do Avodah Zarah.
Right.
So he was going to make him do Avodah Zarah. Huh?
Disgrace.
It's a disgrace. It was going to be Avodah Zarah. So that's basically another reason maybe why Shaul HaMelech was allowed to commit suicide, because he was afraid they weren't just going to come and torture him. They were going to torture him like we said, Hanani, Mishan, Zarah. We torture somebody, he would do Avodah Zarah.
100%.
And there is other Yam Shlomo brings. It says it's he was afraid that he said that the Jewish people are going to come and have all these operations to come and remove his body. And he says they're going to come and do all these covert operations in the middle of the night, and obviously a lot of soldiers will die. It's a very dangerous operation. So he said, why should I put other soldiers in danger, so to come and save my body, or even if I was alive, while they torture me? He says a lot of Jews are going to die because of me. So he says, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to kill myself. That's it. Nobody should have to come and die for me. Technically, they did take his body still, and they did torture his body, mutilate his body, until in the middle of the night. They did actually come and take his body out from where he was.
They did desecrate his body.
They did, right. But he says that he was afraid if he's going to go alive, because he was alive, they would put more soldiers on the line to die. And the sixth one is because it's Chilul Hashem. It says how it's such a very demeaning and demoralizing thing whenever a king of the Jewish people is executed by the enemy. Right? You see, even Hitler, he didn't want to go down with Russians or Americans killing him. He killed himself. That's or so they claim. But Lamaaseh, you see clearly, it's the most as a leader, the biggest shame you could have is you be taken by the enemy and being killed by the enemy, and that's also demoralizing.
It happened with one Roman emperor.
Right. So that's the question. So in the end of the day, what do we pass him? Do we say that a person is allowed to kill himself to accept torture or not? Interestingly, Shulchan Aruch brings this halacha. It says a person anus kishaul hamelech. An example is Shaul HaMelech. A person who's anus, a person is an unforeseen circumstance. Like Shaul HaMelech, emoni mimenu kol davar, you're allowed to mourn for him. Which means he's not considered, when it comes to our intentional murder, because he's anus. Because in this, what makes it anus is not so clear. It's not so clear. So the Shach and the Taz, they say that it's maybe he was going to serve Avodah Zarah. Seemingly that's the heter. That if a person is afraid to be worshipping, they're going to torture him to an extent. They're going to do Avodah Zarah, he's allowed to commit suicide. So that's seemingly the only heter that comes out from the Shulchan Aruch. Now, what comes out to here, our case, is a soldier allowed to commit suicide?
No.
It's not so clear. It's not so simple as we see. Today, the Hamas soldiers are not interested in making the guy do Avodah Zarah. They don't even care if you're going to become Muslim. They don't really care about that. So therefore, there is no heter. So the question is, what about a guy whose plane is shut down? And he's one of the wings is shut down. He's on his way down. He's on his way down and he's going to crash right now. Should he eject himself, save himself, and fall in the hands of the enemy, or die himself? Is he allowed to say, you know what, I'm just going to stay in the plane and die? What do you think?
If he lands in enemy territory, he's probably going to die as well too, no? Like,
Yeah, but he's going to go down with torture in that.
So might as well take some...
Right. So that's also debatable. Like, is that considered like are you like Rabbi Hanani ben Teradion that you're on the way dying, or technically you could live? Huh?
Still on
Still
no, but
still on those.
Even when he's paralyzed and there's a lot of issues.
There's no guarantee he's going to be captured.
There is. You're in enemy territory. You're in enemy territory. Where are you going to
The
be?
parachute coming out, they're going to see him.
They're going to see where you're coming, and they will come and get you. So
Even if
You
they
don't
don't
know
see,
if you're gonna die.
even if they don't see him, they're still gonna desecrate his body. This way, if he crashes with the
Right.
plane, at least he'll burn to a
Right.
crisp. They won't be
So
able to desecrate
could be
his body.
there's a little heter over there to say, listen, I'm dying anyway. So what am I'm not doing anything in action. He's not doing anything, which means he's saying I'm going to be shaval taseh. I'm not going to obligated to save my life at this point. I can just sit in this plane until the end of the ride. So technically, maybe there is a heter a little bit for that. So to come back to the first three questions we asked, the Hannibal law: a person who is captured by an enemy, can the other enemy come and shoot the enemy and the soldier? That's nothing. That's not suicide here at all. We're talking about murder. This is a question of murder. Another Jew is going to kill another Jew. That's considered murder. So therefore, that's debatable. It was a big debate in Israel. I don't know if you guys probably didn't hear about it. It's called the Hannibal. It's been around for 40 years. So there's only one rabbi, Rabbi Shalomayev, that allowed it. He said, no, it's okay. You're allowed to do it. But most of the rabbis disagree. They said, this murder, how you're allowed to kill another Jew just for political reasons. It's political. You don't want to trade him. You don't want to have all these negotiations. Okay.
It's also saving other lives. They're going to go in and try to get him probably.
Okay. That was his cheshbon was. But that was only a cheshbon for suicide. Here, the guy is taking another Jew's life on that with that cheshbon. That's not so simple. That's a different discussion. So
that's not applicable to the suicide situation.
no, again, we're talking about once he's already captured. The question you're asking is how many are you allowed to release that amount of terrorists? And that's a different question. So the second question is about suicide. We said about suicide, it's not so simple unless maybe the Shulchan Aruch comes out to be unless a person is known for, he knows he's going to be tortured to do avodah zarah. Maybe there's a heter, but the torture in general seemingly is not so simple.
Really?
No, it's not so simple. It's not so simple because that's not the way we understand Shaul HaMelech. So it is what it is. And with a plane, we said maybe there's also a heter if he doesn't have to do anything obligatory to eject himself.